When you first start in a new world, it's a really good idea to start chunk loading. So if we do /chunky and then we go to radius, you can set the radius to anything you like, but 1,000 should be good enough to get you started. Once that's done, you can do /chunky once more, and this time just hit start. And it tells you in chat that the progress of that has started. On top of that, you see at the top of my screen right there, the loading is happening. So it's already a couple of % in. So basically you can get that going while you get on with the rest of your game. Now you can toggle shaders in this pack, but before you do that, you should go into your controls here, and under keybinds, you want to search for rotation lock, which is this one here, and just press escape. It's bound as the same key as your shaders, but basically the shaders will transform your game. So instead of looking like this, it will look like this. And I think most people probably prefer the shaders, so that's how you do that. If you don't remove the key for the rotation lock though, you'll end up getting this cube next to your crosshair, which is just annoying. Now this is the default look of the minimap, and there's not a lot going on there. It's not very clear and stuff like that. But if you'd like your minimap to look like this, where you can see here the different animals and NPCs and stuff like that all show up, plus myself, I can be seen very clearly, so I'm a nice red dot and I stand out, then here's how you go about changing that. So you need to press this key here, and once you're in here, go to minimap settings, and then go to entity radar settings here. We now go into entity category settings, and under living right here, we have a few different things. So first of all, we'll talk about friendly creatures. And if we go into their settings, you want their display set to on, and then you can give them different dot colors if you wish. However, I quite like to use the icons. So I'm going to put icons on to always. Now, if I just confirm that real quick and we go back out here, then you'll see it on the minimap right there. We have like blue jays and flies and crows and skunks and stuff like that all showing up on the map. On top of that, we got the heads there for the villagers and things, so everything can be seen a lot more clearly. And by following this process, anytime that you go into here, you can change all different settings around. So another thing that you can change under living is the player, which is obviously yourself. So under the settings there, we'll put the dot color and we'll change that one. Let's go down here to a nice dark red color. Icons, you can put that on always if you wish. Definitely want the display set as on, but you can go down here and change all types of things like the scale, the size, the height, all that sort of stuff. So it's a really useful little thing to change around. It makes your life a little bit easier. Now, talking about the minimap, if we press Z, we can actually zoom in on the minimap, and you have to hold that down. You notice that my toolbar down here changes, so you can turn that off if you wish. That is a quark thing. It's basically where you can switch between different inventories. You can change that to a different key if you like. You can find that in your keybinds by searching for swapper, and this is the hotbar swapper. So if we just turn that one off, then that won't keep showing up. But sometimes it is useful to zoom in on that minimap. And another thing about the map is when we press M to open up the map, you'll see right here that, for example, we may need sand, and we think, okay, let's go to this desert. So we can go add waypoint right here and just call that sand, and we can choose a color for it if we want. So I don't know, we'll just go for a nice reddish color. Why not? Do a little tick and another tick. But you get confused because you come back out and you're like, okay, well, that's great, but where's my waypoint? Well, in order to change that, if we go to M once again, down in the bottom left here, we have the settings. And where it says waypoints, you need to click on this and change it to true, then hit accept. And now if we do that, we'll see that if we look in the right direction, there we go, this shows up, that nice red point over there. That is our sand. Now you may have noticed you can get a lot of wood in this game by just chopping down the bottom block of a tree, and when you do that, eventually the whole tree above it falls down, and this can be particularly useful when you have big trees. And there we go, this one has come down and we get all of that wood. But sometimes you just need a quick piece of wood and you don't want to have to chop down the entire tree because that takes ages. So if you hold down shift and then destroy the piece of wood, you will get just that one, and it's a quick way of getting just a couple bits of wood rather than having to chop down the entire tree. Now if you do want to take down a big tree and you're not sure exactly how many times you'll have to chop it, what you can do is look at the bottom block there, and you see right there it tells you 0 out of 12 chops. So that's how many it is for that tree. If you come over to this one, it's only 4. This one over here is 7, and so on. Now by pressing 0, you can actually open up the settings for Jade, which is like the whaler type plugin. And what you can do then is change the mod settings if you wish. So you have all different appearance things and whatever, so you can make it different levels of opacity, different positions on the screen, and all that sort of stuff. Personally, I'm actually pretty happy with the default one, but I thought it was worth mentioning because you may want to change that. Now, if you can, you want to get a bed and sleep through the first night because the mobs get pretty treacherous. However, if you see any surface coal, I recommend you take it, because then if you can't make a bed, you can at least dig into a cave or dig down somewhere and just do some mining through the first night. Either way, you definitely don't want to be out and about in the general open area through the first night because you'll probably die. Now, you could also get very lucky and find a structure like this in which there is going to be a bed. So let's get in here and we're going to go ahead and sleep. That was very fortunate indeed. If you do find a bed in a structure like this or a village or something, be sure to pick it up and take it with you, ready for the next night. Now, when you see these little logs like this, if you go close to it and shift, you can actually crawl down through into it, and you see there you get an advancement for doing so. Now, the cool thing about this is you could use that as like little tunnels if you're making an underground base, or like an alternative to a door and stuff like that, and have like a little trap door or something. But definitely something I thought I'd mention. Now, once you find somewhere that you want to set up a little bit of a beginner base, you should go ahead and type in /set home like this, and that way when you're out exploring, you can actually do a /home whenever you want. If you do it, you'll see that it does come with a 10-second cooldown just like this, and also there is a time in between you using it. So once the cooldown comes to an end, we teleport back, but if we try to do it again right now, you'll see there it's a 25-minute cooldown. So you do need to be careful when you use it, but certainly very useful to have set up. Now, once you have a basic little setup, what you should do is press E and click this right here for the chunks manager, and just make sure you claim these chunks like this around your base. And if you have any farms or machines or anything like that going, you can left click them and shift left click them, I should say, and then you'll get these little green things. And this means it's now chunk loaded, so these will always be working even if you are away from the area. Now, one of the reasons it's good to do this is once claimed, if a creeper were to blow up here, it would still do damage to us, but it wouldn't blow up like our chests and put our inventory all over the floor and stuff like that. So it is very useful to claim these chunks once you've got a little base going. If you like building and want to get into that even in the early game, then I recommend you make one of these things, a carpenter's table, because you can see the resources that it needs are actually relatively few. So once you've placed that down, you can right click it and left click something like, for example, the ladders right here, and then we could choose some different ladders. So let's go for, say, plank ladders, for example, so we can then craft all, and there we go. So now when we place down our ladders, they look a little bit different. Now, this works for a whole range of materials, like, for example, all your different planks and stuff like that. So it gives you a ton of early game different building options, and it doesn't have like a durability or any cost to it. So once you've made that initial table, which as we saw is fairly cheap, you can build all kinds of things. Within your hotbars 2x2 crafting grid, you can make a crafting table on a stick. This is a really useful item because then whenever you're out and about, by right clicking with it, you get your full 3x3 crafting grid. It's also a great idea at your base to add a little waypoint to it. So on the map, you can do it that way if you wish. Just right click, add the waypoint, and put it down as home. And that way you'll never get lost. Then if you're out and about, you'll be able to quickly find your way back. So there we go. Let's tick that one like that. And now when we're here, there we go. There's the waypoint. Another thing you can do is go into your waypoint manager, which I've just put as my hotkey as J. And here you got the toggle visibility. So we could turn that one off. And that way you could have several other waypoints that are currently on and just turn that one off. So if you want to get to that, obviously options, controls, and under keybinds, search for waypoint, just like this. Then waypoint manager I set to J. Obviously, when you first do that, you will have conflicts. So then just search for the key of J and it will show you any conflicts and you remove them. I found J to be one that was pretty good. I wasn't really losing out on much else. Now, once you've got yourself a load of clay, sand, and gravel, you can make up some grout. And I've put it in this orientation because that's actually the recipe for it. So if we go here to grout, you see there's a couple different recipes. I prefer using the one with blocks. And I've got way more than I need to get started here. But the nice thing about this amount is it's exactly 1 stack of coal, and then we're going to get a ton of seared bricks out of this, and this is how we get into tinkers for better tools, weapons, and armor. So the tinkers initially doesn't need anywhere near this amount of grout, and I'll show you how much we do need in just a second, but I'm kind of future-proofing a bit by getting more of it. Obviously, it's just a bit more efficient to get all that clay, gravel, and sand while you're there, rather than going back on multiple trips. So we now have all the materials we need to get started with tinkers, which are all of these seared bricks, a bit of glass, and also a bit of wood, as you see here, and it will become apparent why that is. Now, one of the first things you want to do is make a good load of patterns. You can use them for all different things. So I probably made there like 15. That should be enough to get us started. But that's going to allow us to make up one of these crafting stations right here, which is a very useful Tinker's crafting station. And also the Tinker's station itself, which again is going to be very useful, as you'll see in a sec. So the first Tinker's quest wants you to make up this book right here. And so to do that, I believe it's just one of these patterns and a book, so it's nice and easy to do, and you get materials and you. So as well as completing the quest, this is a really helpful book when you're getting started. So it tells you everything you need to know about the first tier of Tinkers. Now there are, I think, 5 or 6 books or something in total as you progress through. So today we're just covering the very start of Tinkers, but I've put a really useful link in the video description that takes you to a video that's not one of mine, but it's a very good video that takes you through everything to do with Tinkers if you guys are interested in the full mod. For what we're doing today though, we're just going to follow the quest line. So basically you're going to make up the part builder and the part chest. Then you're going to go through and start making up the seared melter and stuff like that. Now I'm sure you guys are going to be easily able to figure out how to complete these quests. So I'm just going to show you how to configure everything once it's built, and also get into what I believe to be some useful early game tools, including the materials I recommend you build them out of. So along the way of our Tinker's journey, I will mention anything that I think might be useful. And this one right here, the seared ingot tank that you're going to make, this is how you fuel up the mini smeltery, as we'll see in a second. But what you can do is if you place it down next to lava, you can put your lava buckets inside it, and when we go and pick this up in a second, it will retain all of that lava. So let's see, is that full now? And then we'll take one lava bucket spare. So we can just pick this up and carry it around with us. So this is actually, as well as being useful for the Tinker Smeltery, and also it's an early game way of carrying around any sort of fluid if you want. So you could put water in here, obviously you could put lava in here and stuff like that. So once we've brought that back, it's a good idea to place this down somewhere near your Tinker's multi-block, the way this all connects up. Obviously you have everything sort of close by. So you just place the heater like that, the seared ingot tank that goes down there. Then you can place the seared melter up on top with a casting basin on the side. And in this way, we can actually start getting more ores than we get from just mining and smelting them down in the normal way. So what I mean by that is if we go in here and we put in the 3 copper, you'll see that once this smelts across, we're actually going to have 4 ingots. So you get an extra third by smelting down the ores in this way. And there we go, there's our 4 ingots. And copper is something very good to smelt up as it happens. And the reason for that is if we make up one of these seared bricks right here and we place it down in the basin, then we pour copper up on top of it, that's going to be the way we get our next smeltery controller. So you'll see here that once this cools down, if we right click, there we go, we've got the smeltery controller. And so this is for the bigger smeltery, which enables us to make tier 2 weapons, tools, and armor. And incidentally, it took 4 copper ingots to do that. So it's all sort of configured perfectly, where you put 3 copper in, you get 4, and that makes your smeltery controller. So in terms of putting together your tier 2 smeltery, you can either do a 3x3 area, just like this, or you can make it a 5x5, and this will be for the base of your smeltery. Now what it does is it calculates how much the width and the height of the smeltery is, which we'll do in a moment, and that's about how much capacity it has inside for your different amount of ingots. Now personally I think a 3x3 is enough for the early game, but obviously if you do want to make the bigger 5x5, then go for it. So with that done, you can then just place a dirt block or something like this, and we're going to put down our smeltery controller, and then I like to put these seared fuel tanks either side of it. Now the quest actually makes you make up the melter thing, so the seared melter, and you can fuel your furnace or your Tinker Smeltery that way, but personally I just would rather use the lava. Now one thing the questline doesn't tell you about are these things right here, which are seared drains, but they are incredibly useful in terms of getting materials out of your smeltery. So what I'm going to do is place down 3 on each side, just like this. And then basically you can use these and have more than 6 outputs, because this one block here can have 2 outputs. So the one in the middle is wasted because it just has 1, but every one that's on the corner gives you 2 outputs if you want it. So we then just place these seared bricks around the back of the smeltery. Make sure you dig out anything you put in the middle like I've done right here. And when we place that final brick down, then the smeltery is ready to go. So if we go back to the smeltery controller, you can see here that first of all we get the advancement, but all the lava's here, so that's the temperature. And right now it has a capacity of 108 ingots. So if we made a 5x5, that would be more. And we're now going to build this upwards a bit, and that will also increase the capacity. So I've now built up all the sides, as you can see right here. And we use some seared glass as a bit of a window. This is just an aesthetical choice. It doesn't give you any kind of extra functionality, although you do get to see in and see what ores are in there. But now if we right click here, you see we can put way more ore inside this if we want to. And our capacity has gone up to 432 ingots, so it's much more. And we can keep going up, and eventually it will reach an upper limit. But again, this is why I think the 3x3 is enough for the early stage. Now, if you think this looks a little bit ugly when it's placed like this, you can also place blocks around it like I'm doing right here, and it's not going to break the functionality or anything like that. And some people think this looks a little bit better. Now, if you do it on the sides here, bear in mind you are blocking off one of your drain holes if you were to do that. But then if you had this on all 4 sides, it will look like this instead. So with that done, what you need to do now is place your faucets down on top of the drains like this. And then what I recommend is you go for 3 casting tables, and we're going to come on to some of the uses of them later on, and also 3 of these basin things on the other side like this. The basins are really useful if you're trying to get bulk materials out, because obviously each one of those is a block of metal, so 9 ingots at a time, whereas the casting tables are used for casting some tools and weapons and stuff like that. Now, much like the smaller smeltery, the bigger Tinker Smeltery, if we put in 3 copper right here, you'll see that once again it does give us some extra ore. So once again, there we go, we have 4 ingots from the 3 raw copper. Now, if you want to more than double your ore, this can be done. What you have to do is feed ore directly into the smelter. So if we placed ore in here, we get more than double back. Now, in order to do that, you do need this stuff. So this is a silky cloth. You're going to need 5 of these. Now, the rose gold that you need isn't too bad because you just need gold and copper, but the cobweb is a little bit trickier. Obviously, you could find these. If you get into mana stuff in Botania, you can actually start making them as well. But probably the easiest way to get into this early game is probably through Tinkers itself, which is with severing with a broadsword here on any type of spider, and that can give you the drop of the cobweb. So if you are in a particular rush to try an ore double or you want silk touch, then that is a way that it can be done through Tinkers. Now, in order to make some tier 2 weapons and tools and things like that, what you're going to need is an anvil. And there's many different types of Tinker's anvil, but I would say that the ones made out of brass and bronze are going to be the easiest. The reason I say that is in order to make the brass, all you need is a bit of zinc and copper. And in order to make the bronze, if we click on the bronze blocks here, all you need for that is a bit of tin and copper. So really whichever you find first is fine. So I'm going to go do a bit of mining myself now to get these materials together. And then once we've made this, I'll show you some of the cool things we can make because it unlocks tier 2 crafting. And there are some great Tinker's tools once we get to that stage. So I've done a little bit of mining, and right now you see we've got a load of molten copper in here and we're adding in the zinc. So once this zinc smelts down and goes inside here, you'll see that automatically now it starts to combine and become brass, which is obviously exactly what we want, and we have more than enough there with the 3 blocks. So we can come around this side, you just right click on these. Does it have to be an empty hand? Is that what's going on here? Okay, right click those and it pours into the basins. Now you have to be careful with this as well though, because sometimes you might want to smelt something down here and you don't want it to alloy. So in that case, you just have to be careful what's actually in here. So with the blocks of brass collected, we can now make up our Tinker's anvil, just like this. And you want to go ahead and place that down as part of this multi-block structure because it does all connect up. So we go into the anvil and we can go through to the other things. But the anvil itself is the really exciting thing because now we have things like the sledgehammer and the cleaver and also the excavator, wherever that is, and some other really useful Tinker's tools. So I'm going to talk you through a few of my favorites, but the great thing with this mod is you can play around with it and have a lot of fun figuring things out for yourself in terms of what you prefer, because a lot of this will be down to personal requirements and also personal preference. Now, one thing that can be very useful when you're getting into Tinkers is to grab a little bit of gold, or just grab, I think 2 is actually going to be enough of the raw gold, and smelt that down. And I'll show you why that is in just a second. Okay, so now we have 2 ingots of gold in here, and you can left click these, by the way, and whichever one is at the very bottom, that's the one that's going to come out if you have multiple things in here and you're trying to, get a certain liquid out. So if I use a seared brick and I place that down on one of these casting tables, and then I pour gold onto it, just like this, we then just have to wait for it to cool. But what we get is an ingot cast. Now, the reason this can be quite useful is if you see in here right now, for example, I've got 1 gold ingot, for example, on there. I've got 7 ingots of brass, 5 ingots here and stuff like that. So what you can do is start pouring that stuff out into here if you just want to get a few ingots out, but you don't have enough for a full block. And in that way, you can either get the odd material if you need to use it for building or something, or just clear it out if you don't want to accidentally alloy it with something else. Now, in the same way, you can get yourself any kind of nugget and put that down. And just want to double check that it's definitely gold coming out. Yep, there we go. And you can make yourself an ingot cast. So again, that's a very useful thing. If you've got a few ingots you want to get rid of, this is how we do it. So for example, let's have a look at what have we got at the bottom here. We've got 6 nuggets of gold. So we can basically just right click that and then out they come. And this is a way that we can clear our smeltery. So for any Tinker's tools and weapons and things that you want to make up, the process is always pretty much the same. First thing you want to do is start smelting down some gold in your smeltery. Then after that, go to the part builder and build the part that you need. So you've got all the different options here. And let's say we want to make up an axe head. We then put in some stone as our material, no matter what material you're making the axe head out of, because all this is going to be useful is a stencil. So what we can do is put the axe head down on the basin, just like that, on the casting table, I should say. Then we want to make sure that our gold is at the bottom by left clicking it and pour the gold out on top. Now what that does is it creates a reusable stencil basically. So we can pour different materials into the axe head from the smelter. So you might pour in iron or whatever. And when you pick that up, you will collect the axe head material, but you won't use up the stencil as you would with like the clay stencil. So that's why the gold is better. Now there are certain exceptions to that. So if you go to the part builder, if you want to build a Tinker's bow, you'll need a bowstring. So for that, you just come in here, you put your string in, and you collect your bowstring. But in one of those two ways is how you're going to make almost every item, especially at this stage of Tinkers. So it'll either be the stencils or just making it directly in the part builder, just like that. Now, sometimes you have to use different materials. So for example, I want to make up a bow right now, and that means I have to make a bow limb. Now, if I put in cobblestone, that's not one of the options available to us because it's the wrong material. So sometimes you can have that. So with the bow limb, for example, we need to make that one out of wood. But once again, what we're going to do then is put the wood down over here, and let's go and get our gold. Make sure that's selected first, and pour the gold down onto here to make the cast. And the same way as the stone, you'll lose the stone bit that you've made, but you do get the gold cast out of it. So yeah, sometimes you just have to use wood instead of stone. I have now made some beginner weapons and tools. I'm just going to talk you through what I've chosen. Obviously, this is just like an example. You can do your own thing. But first of all, this is a really useful tool. This is the mattock. Now, the reason I really like this is because it's very quick at chopping down wood. You see right here, that's pretty fast, almost instant in fact. It can also be used as a shovel, and again, pretty much instant with the level that I've got it. And it's a hoe as well. So if we come over to like a bit of area here, if we wanted to hoe this, so it's like a 3-in-1 and saves us having extra tools. Now, in terms of the mattock, the one that I've made right here, this has a bronze axe head, a bronze adze, and a brass handle. So those are 3 parts you need to make the mattock, and that's what I went for. Once again, feel free to play around with that, but as you can see, it is pretty quick, and it will just need bronze to repair it, so that's not too bad. I just realized it may have looked like you can't use the tree chopper ability with the mattock, but you can. If I just chop down this tree right here, you'll see, there we go, very quickly we got the whole tree down. I was just holding shift before just to show you guys the general speed of it, but that probably gives you a better idea, and I didn't want any confusion, so I just thought I'd clear that up. Here are the stats of the mattock, and nothing particularly there that we did. It mines faster at higher durability, but we're not too worried about that. It also mines faster when in moderate temperatures. Again, that's not why I chose it. It's just a consequence of those materials. Now, for my sledgehammer, this mines a 3x3, and you'll see that I've actually gone for a stone sledgehammer. So that means the head is made out of stone. Now, the reason I've done that is if we go into the part builder here and we put a load of stone in, we can make up these repair kits. And as you can see, it's pretty easy to do. All it needs is a bit of stone and obviously the patterns themselves. So right now, if we put this up here, if we're just out on the go, we can add a load of these in, and basically it just repairs a little bit each time. So it's just a really cheap way of doing a lot of mining and only needing stone each time to repair it, rather than using something like brass or bronze or something like that. Now, in terms of the speed of this hammer, if we just mine stone, you can see here it's very, very quick. And of course, I've run straight into gravel because I'm trying to show something, but there you go. You guys get the point. It's really, really quick. And so obviously getting the stone that fast makes it very easy to then just repair it. If you want to mine further down though, like so if you're going to mine some deep slate, then this is the speed. Now, once again, bearing in mind you're mining 9 deep slate each time, I have to say I think this is pretty quick. And the fact that it just needs stone to be repaired, I think it makes it pretty useful. So in terms of the materials I used for the sledgehammer, I went for obviously the rock head, the stone head. Then we've got the bronze large plates and an iron handle. I think a brass handle would be marginally better, but it's just slightly more complicated. And at that time, I hadn't done as much mining. On top of that, I added silk touch on, so we get whatever we mine, and a couple reasons for doing that. But in order to do that, you need the silky cloth. So molten rose gold, fairly easy to get. In terms of the cobweb, I got lucky and found them, but we're going to talk about this in a minute. This is the cleaver. If you use that on spiders, you will get cobwebs from that. So here's all the stats for the sledgehammer. The silky there is obviously the silk touch. It has some things that are useful and some things that aren't. So stonebound here, it says the tool mines faster as it wears out. So that's kind of cool as well, as we get less durability. Other than that, these things here, it also has tool mines faster when at high durability, which kind of like cancels that one out a bit, so it should mine faster anyway. And so the reason behind choosing certain materials is also to do with these modifiers that come with it sometimes. As I mentioned earlier, you can use silk touch on ores, and then when you put those ores into your furnace, you get more than double back. And this works for a lot of ores, but not all of them. Things like diamond, for example, at this level of smeltery, you won't have enough heat in order to melt that down. And that's where my pickaxe comes in handy, because it has the lucky enchant, which is essentially Tinker's version of fortune. In order to add that, what you need to add are 2 blocks of lapis, 2 copper ingots, and a blue orchid or a cornflower. So surround it all in the way you see here. Again, that's done in the Tinker's anvil. Now, my pickaxe has a bronze pickaxe head, a rose gold binding, and a rose gold handle. Now, the reason I wanted to use rose gold is every time you use rose gold for a piece, it adds on a modifier. And as you can see right here, I've got a lot of modifiers. So if you add diamond first, it increases the durability by a certain amount. Then by adding emerald, it increases by the base durability by 50%. So you always want to add the diamond first and then the emerald to get the most out of the durability. On top of that, I added redstone to give it haste, and when I get more redstone, I'll add more, so that just makes it faster. And in terms of how fast it is, you can see right here, this is how quickly it can mine. But for just general mining around my base, that's fine. And obviously, if I'm just mining a few ores, like diamonds or something, to get fortune, it doesn't need to be much quicker than this, because if we're doing the bulk mining, that's why we use the sledgehammer. Now, here's our pickaxe, and you can see we still have 2 upgrades that we can add on, even with everything we have here. So the enhanced 2, that's the rose gold, giving us the extra abilities. Pierce isn't something we need to worry about. This is the same as before, the maintain, faster at higher durability. We got a bit of haste, and that's because we added the redstone, and then we added diamond, and also we added emerald, and that both increases the durability. And lucky, of course, is our ability for this one, so it's got the fortune on it. And as I say, we've still got a couple of upgrades we can add to it to make it faster. So we just got a peaceful moon, which means we're not going to get any mobs spawning, and I was hoping to show you my cleaver, so I have to wait for tomorrow night. But I can talk you through what I've used for the cleaver. So the thing to say about the cleaver, if we look at ourselves here, you can see it is a 2-handed weapon, so you cannot equip a shield with it. So yeah, there's no point having the shield equipped with it. But what you could do is, if you have like a blank spot next to it, you can just do that and then hold your shield in that way. So you put your shield up there and you're using your sword, but then if you need to quickly block, you can just do that and then swap back. So I don't find that too bad, and the cleaver does do massive damage. Plus, it has some other benefits, like we saw, you get the mob drops there, like for spiders, for example, you're going to get cobwebs. Also, it has a higher chance of beheading. So if you use it on the wither skeletons, for example, you're more likely to get the wither skeleton skulls. And so that's one of the reasons I used it. Now we have the cleaver, and there's the stats for that one. Now this one has smite, which is kind of cool. So undead fear the might of the melon, it says. Basically, undead, so your zombies and skeletons, stuff like that, it will do more damage against them, so that's pretty cool. The flint gives it jagged, so this here, every time it loses durability, it does more damage, so that's pretty cool as well. And then we got pierce, so this will cancel out some of the target's armor, as it says there, and severing 2, so this is about the head, you know, the higher chance of getting the head drops and stuff like that. And so this is one of the reasons I chose the materials. It's not all to do with the stats that we have up the top here, it's also to do with what modifiers you get. And then finally we have our bow, and this is a silver bronze longbow, and the reason that it's a silver bronze is we used silver and bronze for the limbs of the bow, and then I then used a bronze bow grip and just normal bowstring. So in terms of draw speed, it's fairly quick, I would say. It's not too bad, and it does a decent amount of damage. We'll look at that with mobs later on. And then we have the bow, and this has some interesting ones. So for example, it says here, this can be repaired using string. So if you bring it to a tinker's anvil and you put string into it, you can actually repair the bow back up to full just using strings. It's great if you've got a spider farm. Interesting to note, though, this will not work on the go if you just put it in your crafting area. It has to be done at the tinker's anvil. Some other things it has here, arrows deal bonus damage against the undead. That's the silver part we add, so we might as well have that. This one doesn't really mean anything, but the point with tinkers is it's not just about the stats you see up here. It is to do with the modifiers as well. And as I say, you can play around with that and personalize it to make it exactly how you want it. And that's one of the very fun things to do with this mod. Another thing I wanted to clear up, you see down there, we've got the diamonds waypoint, and I've got other waypoints in the world that I've been setting. I talked about the waypoint manager, for example, for my home. If I turn that on, we got this one right here, but you'll notice there's no diamonds on here. So this is a different waypoint menu. So there's actually 2 in the game. Which is good because you can use it differently. But if you want to manage these ones down here, the default key is set to U. So if we hit U right here, the diamonds one, for example, I've already got them all. So I can go ahead and delete that right now. Hit delete again. So if you do it by accident, it just has a little fail safe, and now it's gone. So yeah, those are the 2 different waypoint menus, and both of them quite useful. All right, now that it's nighttime, we'll go and hunt some mobs, and I'll show you the cleaver and also the bow that I've made in action, just to see how decent they are. All right, so we've got one of these spider things right here. So let's go ahead and give that a couple of hits, and there we go. Looks like that died. This was some sort of like frosty spider, like a different to normal. As I'm saying, this is some sort of guy coming at me here. Okay, what are you? Oh my goodness. And I've been poisoned. Oh boy. All right, we got one of these wraiths here right now. So we're going to take a few shots at him. Where did he go now? Okay, here he is. So we've hit him like twice. So we killed the wraith there in like 3 shots, which I don't think is too bad for the cleaver right there. And we got some sort of drop there, the ectoplasm as well. So yeah, I'll try and find some more mobs. That dude there is more... Oh. Okay, yeah, this guy up here is more about the like arrow shots, but I think we can kill him in about 3 hits, if like 3 hits where we actually land them, obviously. So let's try and show that. All right, here he is. So let's see. Let's go 1 and shot number 2. I actually killed him in like 2 hits, I think. So yeah, not too bad. Need to go get some more food, then we'll come back out. All right, here we go. We got a couple of mobs down here I can show you guys with. So there's a skeleton there. That's a good one. And there's also a spider here. So it's one of these like ice spiders, ghost spiders. Only sure what they call it. So the icy spider, there we go. So let's see, we can kill an icy spider with the cleaver in like 3 hits. So that's not too bad. Let's see about the skeletons, if we can get nice and close to him. 1, 2 hits for the skeleton. That's pretty good as well. Was there another spider there? Guess that's it. But yeah, so the cleaver, you know, it's not too bad. Again, we're just talking about early game stuff here, just enough to get us to a point where we can head to the nether. Now, another thing I wanted to mention about Tinker's repairs is if we look at the bronze sledgehammer here, you'll see the durability there, 1229. If we add a stone repair kit to it, it goes up to 1315. So it doesn't add much on, right? It's less than 100 durability added on. Now, if we use something better, so for example, I've got the bronze pickaxe. Let's grab that one. Durability 885. We grab the bronze repair kit, you'll see that would fully repair it. So that is one advantage of making tools out of something that's slightly better, is you'll need fewer repair kits. Now, I've got a feeling that this actually would repair it from down at like when it's broken, right the way back to full. I haven't broken it enough to test that out yet, but I just wanted to make the point that you don't need, like, whereas we need loads of the stone ones, it's not the same with other materials, so don't be frightened of building of something that's a little bit better. Now, once we get to the nether and we can get quartz, we can add quartz to our sword to make it way sharper and do way more damage. So that's going to be a really good progression, but obviously not one we've taken yet. But that is obviously the tools we've talked about, and we've talked about the offensive weapons. Now let's talk more about defense, things like shields and armor, and what we can do with that. Just before we get into that, I wanted to bring your attention to these things. These are shurikens. So you have flint shurikens, and then you have quartz shurikens, which do a bit more damage than the flint ones. The recipe for them, very, very straightforward, 4 flint or 4 quartz. And you can see here, I've got a few on me, and you can throw them. And as you can see here, you can actually pick them back up again as well, as long as you don't throw them, I guess, too far and lose them. And you can throw them very quickly. So if there's a mob right here, you can do like a decent amount of damage with these before the mob gets near you, given that they are a ranged weapon. So just thought I'd mention that because it could be quite useful. Now, in terms of the the armor and stuff like that, let's have a look first at the shield. So first thing we need to do is make up a shield core, and we're going to need wood for that. So this is another one of those that can't be made with stone, but you need to make one of these, a shield core. And once again, what we're going to do is put this down in here and pour gold on it. Now with that done, we're once again going to use bronze as our material. So I've got the bronze right here, and all you have to do is pour the bronze onto this shield core and wait for it to set. And there we go. And we now have a bronze plate shield. So this will actually work as a shield. In fact, right now I have double shields, kind of, and flippers. Yeah, this is an awesome look. So yeah, you can put your bronze shield into the shield slot, just like you would with a normal shield. And when you right click, it will protect you. You see it does have cooldown though. When you stop using it, there is a cooldown just there before you can use it once again. So if you're in battle and then you quickly block, once you stop blocking, that's when there's a cooldown period. Now we can upgrade our shield in the anvil once again. So as always, you add the diamond first. See here, that's going to give us a lot more durability. Also, it gives us an armor of 1. So right now the shield provides no armor, but as soon as we add the diamond, it does give us 1 armor. So that's pretty cool. So let's do that. And then we're going to add on an emerald as well. Again, massively increasing the durability. And it also gives us an armor toughness, as you can see right there. Without it, we don't have one. Now we do. So there we go. A couple of upgrades for it. And we have these defense slots right here. So inside the Tinker's mob, we have a number of these things. Iron reinforcement, you can see seared reinforcement, gold, cobalt, and also obsidian. And each of them does different things. So let's go ahead and make up the iron one, and I'll show you how to do it. So we just need to put a blank pattern down and pour iron on top of it. So let's see, we have a blank pattern here. Grab those out. And we're going to put one of these in there. Oh, no, not the shield. We're going to put that one in there. And we're going to put iron on top of it. Now, it actually only takes 1 iron ingot in order to make this thing. And if we go back into our anvil and put the shield in, and then we put this in, you'll see right here, we now have projectile protection. A bit of a tongue twister that. 1 out of 5. Now, to me, this is the best one to put onto a shield because that's typically what you're going to be blocking a lot of the time. So I definitely want to add that on. And you can see right there, that took up 1 of our defense slots. Now, if we go back into the anvil and we put the shield in once again, and we want to add to this, you'll see that we're now at level 2 out of 5 in terms of our protection, but it doesn't take up any extra defense slots. So you actually are able to choose 3 different defense slots and then keep leveling them up, which is pretty awesome. Now, you see what I'm doing here now is I've added in some seared bricks, these full bricks, and they're going to smelt down, and then I'll show you why we're doing those in just a second. But this is going to be for the seared reinforcement. You see here, we get the scorched stone, and we pour that on top of the cast to get the seared reinforcement. While we're waiting for that, though, let's go back to our anvil, and let's put our shield in, and put these 3 in. And now we have projectile protection 1, just like that. So you see here we've got all this seared stone, we've got 8 blocks of that. If we put that down the bottom, let's grab that one up, put down some blank casts here. I'm going to pour these out and I'll show you what that does in a second. Just to say though, if we go back to the anvil now, and we want to put our shield back in, and we try and add another iron reinforcement, now this will take up a defense slot, because we're now going for projectile protection level 2. So this is when it then takes up that extra slot if you do keep adding it past the 5. Now the reason I wanted these seared reinforcements is because we're going to use them for certain things later on. Basically what this does is it gives you fire protection. So given that a lot of the early game Tinker's armor is geared towards getting us to the nether, because that's where we get the better materials to build better armor, weapons, tools with, it makes sense to kind of prioritize that a little bit. Now it's worth mentioning though, this fire protection here, so it protects you against damage from fire, and it also reduces the fire time, so the time that you're on fire. So it's kind of twofold, and that's why it's so powerful. Another really good reinforcement for the shield, though, would be obsidian reinforcement, because this actually gives you blast protection, which is another big reason why you're probably going to be using the shield. So for that, you just have to put in water and lava into the smelter, and it will actually alloy for you. And I'll show you how to do that now. So with a water bucket on you, go ahead and go into your smelter, and if you just shift click like that, the water has gone in. Now as for the lava, I'll just grab some out of here, kind of stealing it from the smeltery, and I'll put the lava in, and you can see there over time it's going to change, and there we go, we got a block of obsidian. So now that we've got that, once again we put down our reinforcement and we pour that down on top. So this is going to take a while to cool down. If we go back into here though, you see that that does take the entire block. So we did use an entire block of obsidian just to make this one. However, if we come over here now and we add this onto our shield, you see we now have blast protection 1 out of 5, so that's pretty cool. Now you can also mine obsidian and just chuck the obsidian in to smelt it down if you'd rather do it that way. Now all of the armor we make up is going to follow the same process, so I'll just show you for one item and then you'll know how to do the rest. So we go to the part builder, we put in our patterns and we put in some cobblestone, and this right here is a helmet plating. So we're going to make up the helmet plating, but then you need to do this for each item. So you got the chest plating and obviously the legs plating as well, which is here, and there should be a boots plating here somewhere. Yep, there it is right there. Okay, so that's all of those. Now it's the same process as before, where we put this down on here, and then we're going to pour gold down on top of it. So you pour your gold down just like this, and once again wait for it to set so that we have the cast. Now with that done, what I'm actually doing is, for all of my armor, I'm going to be using bronze. So let's grab that down here. And I'm not sure it's wanting enough to fill up this. Let's find out. Yeah, no, it's not. So I need to make up a bit more bronze. I'll be back when I have. Okay, so with that done, we've got our bronze helmet plating, and we're going to pick that up as well. Now we also have to make up a mail cast, and in order to do that, it's none of the usual materials. So the easiest one to make it out of is the copper here in the part builder. So we're going to make the copper mail just like that, and then it's the same process. But that one confused me for a little while, so definitely wanted to bring that to your attention. You have to use copper in order to make up a mail cast. Now, I'm actually going to be making my mail out of the seared stone, and I'll show you why in a second. Let's just go ahead and pour that in there and let that cool down. So if we go to our Tinker's anvil, we can click the armor button right here, and I'm going to put in the bronze helmet plating and then the seared stone mail. Now, you see right there, that's going to give us 10% fire resistance, and we've got the fire protection. So I'm going to make my full set of armor in the exact same way. We're going to use bronze for all of the plating, for the helmet, leggings, chest, and boots, and we're going to use seared stone mail every single time. That way I'll have a full set of fire protected armor, and pretty decent armor as well for early on in the game, and that's before we do any upgrades or defense slots, which we're going to do afterwards. So yeah, as I said, I'll show you how to make this one, and then I'm going to do the exact same process for the others. I'm sure you guys will figure that out if you're doing the same thing. Alright, so with all that armor made, I'm now going to add some things to it. So if we put in the helmet right here, and we add in a diamond, you'll see that the durability goes way up, and our armor also goes up by 1 from level 2 to level 3. So that's obviously very good, and we're going to do that. Then we're also going to add in an emerald, and once again our durability goes up hugely, as you can see there, and this time it also gives us an extra armor toughness, so that's really useful too. So we're going to do that for each and every one of these, and obviously in that way give ourselves a lot of extra protection. And just be sure that when you're doing that, you always add the emerald second and the diamond first, because then you get the most benefit out of it. The other thing I'm going to do is add fire protection to all of these, so that we get a decent level of that. So let's see, that's fire protection 2. Is it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5? Okay, cool. So this is now, this helmet has fire protection 2, and we got 20% resistance against fire for using up one of those defense slots. So we're just going to do that for each and every piece, because again, we are gearing up towards going to the nether. So now each piece of armor has 20% fire resistance, and obviously we've got 4 pieces, so that's really, really strong, the amount of fire resistance that we're actually going to have here, plus a decent level of armor. So I think this is an armor of 3, plus 7, so that's 10, plus 6 is 16, plus 3 is 19, whereas what we've got right now is like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So more than doubled our armor plus we've got the fire resistance, and that's pretty cool. And on top of that, I think it looks pretty good as well. I mean, maybe minus the flippers, but we got like a full matching set of armor right now, which is going to stand us in good stead for our progression. And when you combine it with our massive sword, then yeah, we really look like someone now who could handle a little bit of time in the Nether at least. I say that, but I'm sure the Nether on this game is actually incredibly tough, seeing as even the overworld is pretty difficult when it gets to nighttime. So I hope today's video gave you some kind of useful tips and tricks to get you started on MC Eternal. Let me know down in the comments if you've got any tips you'd like to share, anything that you think I missed or maybe got wrong or anything like that. And thank you very, very much for watching.